Because Dad got transferred, we have to move. But you don't have to change schools, right? Are you gonna stay at Grandpa's house? That way, you can avoid changing schools. I don't want to change schools, so I'll go to Grandpa's house. All right, glad you'll go. Good. Now I won't have to take care of you anymore. Are you that happy I'm leaving? Of course. I don't need anyone but a normal kid. The parents' statements were not questions or suggestions, but commands. When the move due to Dad's transfer was decided, my parents, who thought caring for me was a burden due to my congenital leg disability, wanted to leave me with my grandparents and take only my sister. With my departure confirmed, my parents' true feelings were leaking out. Months later, it was decided that I would be left at my grandparents' house. We're gonna impose on you, but please take care of her. Leave it to us. My parents lied calmly, and I did not deny it. From today, we won't see each other much. It was a sad farewell, but my parents left quickly. Grandma noticed my lonely expression and spoke kindly. You okay? They don't want anyone but a normal kid. Don't worry, wait 5 years. They'll be the ones regretting it. Huh? I'd understand Grandma's words after 5 years. I'm Emily. I am a 21-year-old college student. I've been living with my paternal grandparents, Grandma Kelly and Grandpa Tim, for 5 years. I live with them not because my parents divorced or had an accident. My parents are well and live in a different house with my sister. The main reason I live apart is my legs. I was born with brittle bones, prone to fractures, and malformed bones, leading to a lifelong wheelchair use. Also, I'm slightly hard of hearing. But I've never felt inconvenienced, thanks to my wheelchair. I have not experienced any inconvenience as my hearing is only slightly hard, but it does not interfere with my daily life. The reason I was able to live without any inconvenience was probably due to the presence of my sister Lisa, who is 2 years older than me. We gotta hurry and change, or we'll be late. Sorry, I'm slow at changing. No. I was the one dawdling today. One morning, Lisa got distracted by her favorite singer's news on TV. Usually careful, she hurriedly helped me change. As she got older, Lisa took good care of me. She helped with dressing, bathroom, opening doors, and reaching high places. I never felt inconvenienced, thanks to her. I'm grateful to Lisa. People might think my parents also cherished me, given Lisa's care. However, I don't have a good impression of them. They did help with showers and school rides. But what they did for me was only what Lisa couldn't. Mom, I need to go to the bathroom. What? Now? I'm watching TV. Go by yourself. Are you dumping this on me again? I'm watching too. Ugh. Fine. I'll take you, but wait till the next advertisement. My requests were always less important than TV for them. I never expected to be their top priority, but I was always at the bottom of their list. I once waited hours for them to get something I couldn't reach because they were busy with their games. As a child, I felt down, losing to a game. Back then, I didn't dislike them as much. Where should we eat today? How about the cafe? It's been a while. That place has narrow aisles, and it's cramped for Emily, right? Let's go to the Italian instead. They've got spacious seating there. We often went out to eat as a family on weekends. Before leaving, we'd have a little family meeting, sharing what each of us wanted to eat. I didn't really mind anything, so I didn't join in. I enjoyed eating out, but more than the food, I looked forward to going out with my family. So, I waited for their decision with a smile, listening to their discussion. Then, as Lisa says, let's go to that Italian today. Once the destination was decided, Dad naturally pushed my wheelchair. As a kid in elementary school, I loved this moment. Even though my parents prioritized TV and games over me, I felt they cared for me. But, I was mistaken. When I became a middle schooler, I was no longer taken to family meals. Shall we go? Emily, take care of the house, okay? Now, I stayed home alone. Lisa once tried to side with me. Why has Emily been left alone recently? Isn't that weird? As our parents were about to leave, Lisa stopped them, and they turned around with a sad expression. Lisa, don't get it wrong. It's not that we're making Emily stay home, she wants to stay. Really? She says it's too much trouble moving around in her wheelchair and doesn't want to be a burden. She hates attracting stares too. Why don't we just cancel and eat at home? We can all eat together. I think so too. But Emily doesn't want us to worry about her and prefers we go out as usual. Mom passed Lisa and squatted down to meet my eye level, her face close to mine. Right? Mom's expression, once sad, turned sharp, pressuring me. Lisa couldn't see this demon-like face. A middle schooler can't live opposing her parents. Especially in my case. Yeah. When I go out, I end up blocking aisles, right? And getting stared at bothers me. With my compliant response, Mom's face turned into a smile. I've never been more terrified of a smile. Reluctantly, but convinced, Lisa left with our parents. After they left, I reached desperately for the food in the fridge, heated it in the microwave, and ate dinner alone. The house was silent, and the sounds of my wheelchair creaking and tires squeaking on the floor were clearer than usual. This incident taught my parents that I'd comply under pressure. Since then, I was always left behind, not just for meals but family outings too. Sorry, Emily doesn't want to be a burden with her wheelchair. We'll be gone for 3 days. Please take care of her. Leave Emily to us. My parents lied as usual to Grandma, taking only Lisa on trips. I waved back at their leaving figures with a smile that held no feeling. Once they were out of sight, Grandma asked something she didn't really want to hear. Oh. Yeah. It's hard to go out to eat in a wheelchair, right? A trip would be much worse. If I'm a bother, I can't enjoy it. Better to relax at home. I must have spoken quickly. With my empty smile and hurried tone, Grandma seemed to understand. But since I insisted on not wanting to travel, she didn't probe further. As a middle schooler, I didn't have the strength to confront such a big issue. I was grateful for Grandma's understanding, preferring to keep this matter quiet. My parents continued to be cold to me. For a middle schooler, being treated coldly by parents is very hard. But Lisa's kindness at home just barely kept my spirits up. Yet, even Lisa, my only source of comfort, was taken from me by our parents. Lisa, can you help me to the bathroom? Huh? Yeah, hurry up. Lisa responded with reluctance. Even though she had grown cold towards me, worse than my parents. Being treated coldly by my sister hurts more than being treated coldly by my parents. If Lisa turned her back on me, I'd have no place in this house. Overwhelmed with helplessness, I asked her directly after using the bathroom. Lisa, did I do something to upset you? Huh? I don't know. Why don't you figure it out yourself? Lisa quickly walked away to the living room, her footsteps loud. Left alone near the bathroom, I slowly made my way to the living room. There, Mom approached me with a smile. You really are a terrible child, you know. You told Lisa that she's just your caretaker, didn't you? That's enough to make anyone mad. What? No, I didn't say that. It was me. I told Lisa that you called her a caretaker, so I got mad at her for you. Mom's smile returned, and I felt fear. Apparently, Mom had been spreading lies to destroy the relationship between Lisa and me. Children deeply trust their parents, and Lisa completely believed Mom's words. No matter what I said, Lisa's response was cold. She used to help me without asking, but now she did only the bare minimum in silence. As usual, I wasn't included in family outings. On weekends, my parents and Lisa would go shopping, leaving me at home. We bought too much again. After shopping, my parents would conspicuously place their bags where I could see them. Almost none of the items were for me. I wanted to complain, but as a middle schooler, I didn't have the courage. I could only internally criticize their spending habits. If you want something, you should just say so. I'm fine. My parents always returned with shopping bags, but Lisa came back empty-handed. Probably reluctant to accept anything just for herself. Though she distanced herself, she seemed to still care about me. Lisa distancing herself meant my parents had to take care of me more. It seemed good that my parents were more involved. But it wasn't. Call out when you're getting out of the bathroom. I'll be waiting outside as usual. Mom, why are you and Dad so cold to me? Well, isn't it obvious? We have to take care of you in the bathroom. It's such a hassle. I knew my wheelchair was a burden to my parents. But hearing it directly felt like being stabbed in the heart. I washed my face before tears could fall, pretending I hadn't cried. After hearing Mom's true feelings, I tried to stay in my room as much as possible. I thought staying in my room would lessen the times they had to help me and reduce their burden. But it was futile. Months into high school, I was studying in my room when my parents called me to the living room. They sat on the sofa with serious faces. I had a bad feeling but resigned myself to face them. Dad's being transferred, so we're moving. But you don't want to change schools, right, Emily? Are you gonna stay at Grandpa's house? That way, you can avoid changing schools. Their words were not questions or suggestions, but commands. They planned to move with Lisa and wanted me to live with my grandparents. I don't want to change schools, so I'll go to Grandpa's house. Good, you'll go. That's a relief. Right. Now we won't have to take care of Emily anymore. You're happy I'm leaving? Of course. Lisa is enough for us. We don't need anyone but a normal child. Their true feelings were clear now that my departure was certain. Maybe their cold treatment all this time was to make it easier for me to leave when the chance came. If so, I fell right into their plan. But surprisingly, I wasn't angry or shocked. I think I felt relieved to live away from my parents. Months later, I was left at my grandparents'. Sorry, Emily really doesn't want to change schools. We'll be imposing, but please take care of her. Leave Emily to us. My parents lied calmly as usual, and I didn't deny it. Today marked a rare meeting between us. A sad farewell between parent and child. See you then. Yet, they left as if they'd be back in a couple of days. What kind of parents were they to the very end? As I thought about this, I accidentally let my forced smile falter. Grandma noticed my expression and spoke to me kindly. You okay? They don't want anyone but a normal child. Don't worry, wait 5 years. They'll be the ones regretting it. What? Grandma didn't press me for details at that time. Later, I explained everything to my grandparents, but if they had asked me then, I think I would have broken down crying, so I'm grateful for their approach. However, I didn't understand what Grandma meant by her words at that time. It wasn't until 5 years later that I understood. Now, 5 years after moving in with my grandparents, I'm 21 years old and attending college. Lisa has graduated from college, started working, and is living on her own. Since living with my grandparents, I haven't been treated coldly by my parents and have been living a relaxed life. The house is spacious, which is good for me in my wheelchair. My grandpa owned a factory and did well in the past. But with time, the business scaled down, and he has since retired, selling off the factory rights. I didn't realize when I was younger, but Grandpa was quite an impressive person, wasn't he? It wasn't anything special. It was just a small company. So, we aren't particularly wealthy. Grandpa says this, but their house on a huge plot is quite magnificent. Much more than the apartment I lived in with my parents, which had steps and narrow hallways. In contrast, my grandparents' house has wide hallways easy for a wheelchair to navigate and small slopes for the steps. They even installed handrails in the bathroom to make it easier for me to move from my wheelchair. I hadn't felt inconvenienced in my previous life, but living with my grandparents made me realize how inconvenient it had been. I think it would be hard to go back to that old apartment now. As I reflected on my life 5 years ago, the faces of my parents came to mind, and I got goosebumps. Was this some kind of premonition? The next day, my parents suddenly showed up at my grandparents' house. Hey, long time no see. Has it been 5 years? Yeah, since I came to this house. You've become a bit more grown up. I greeted my parents at the entrance with Grandma, feeling stronger goosebumps than the day before. What's up? Coming here all of a sudden without any contact. We called, but you didn't answer, so we came to ask directly. That's because you're being insistent. I've already said no many times. Please, Kelly, continue supporting us like before. My parents seemed to think they could easily get money from Grandma. I was disgusted by their expressions and my goosebumps disappeared. I knew from Grandma that they had been receiving support for mine and Lisa's upbringing. I had wondered why my parents spent lavishly on shopping, dining out, and traveling when their income didn't seem to support such a lifestyle. My dad was a company employee, and my mom worked part-time, so now, as a college student, I understood. They had been begging my grandparents for more money than necessary and spending it as they pleased. Now that I've been living with my grandparents for 5 years and Lisa has moved out, my parents have been cut off from that support. They've been living comfortably for 23 years, nibbling at my grandparents' wealth since Lisa was born, and now they can't reduce their standard of living, so they're back begging for money. Come on, please. You can reduce the amount. I've said it on the phone many times. We won't give you money that doesn't involve the grandchildren. We've overlooked your demands for extra money so far. Be grateful for that. Grandma's stance was reasonable. She knew my parents were asking for extra money. However, she compromised and gave them more than necessary, thinking that the extra money would also be spent on Lisa and me, like dining out and shopping. See, I told you it was useless. I thought if we asked directly, Mom might agree. I was furious at my parents' disappointed faces and wanted to yell at them to leave. But they came hoping for a last-ditch effort, so I thought yelling would only prolong their stay. I stayed silent beside Grandma, but then my parents started saying something shocking. Well, it's okay. Dad and Mom are almost 80, so in a few years, this house will be ours. I was horrified by my parents' attitude after 5 years. How could they say such devilish things so easily? The inheritance will be divided between the 2 grandchildren. You plan to leave everything to Emily and Lisa in your will? I can just claim my compulsory portion. Grandpa spoke firmly to Dad, but Dad, with a devilish smile, dismissed Grandma's words. Mom also seemed confident of victory, sharing the same expression as Dad. Indeed, it's not easy to forfeit one's right to inheritance. Even if a will is left or property is given away during one's lifetime, Dad still has the right to inherit a fair share of my grandparents' estate. In this case, if Grandpa were to pass away, the property would presumably have to be split half between Grandma and Dad. Therefore, even if the will stated that everything should go to Grandma, me, and Lisa, if Dad claimed his compulsory share, he would still be entitled to half of the estate. My knowledge about inheritance is not because I am eyeing my grandparents' wealth. They have been doing end-of-life planning, and I have often heard about inheritance matters from them. I used to think it was a morbid topic, but it turned out to be preparation for this moment. Well prepared, I looked at Grandma. She nodded slightly after seeing my face, indicating that I could explain further. I am grateful to Grandma for giving me the chance to stand up to my parents, who left with only Lisa and ignored me. Like Grandma said, there's nothing left to give you too. What? What are you talking about? I have the right to inherit my parents' estate, and you can't just nullify that. It's hard to make someone renounce their inheritance rights, but what if that inheritance has already been given in advance? What are you talking about? This is getting even more confusing. Dad, you received money for Lisa and me from Grandpa and Grandma, right? And you got more than necessary, spending it however you liked. Grandma told me it's about $500,000. This money can be treated as an advance on your inheritance, meaning it can be deducted from your compulsory share. So, you mean $500,000 will be deducted from my inheritance? Yes. And about this house you're so interested in, it's old, so the house itself isn't valuable. What matters is the huge plot of land it's built on, which could be worth around $1 million. Half of that is $500,000, but since you're already having $500,000 deducted from your share. So, I get nothing? We get nothing? Hold on. Don't panic. Dad sold his company. There must be quite a bit of savings. I know about inheritance matters, but I don't know about Grandpa's company or their savings. So I have to pass the baton back to Grandma. That money's long gone. What? What did you spend it on? We spent it on our grandchildren. We gave it to you, and the rest went to our living expenses. The company wasn't sold for that much, we had to scale down our expectations. Whatever fantasies you had about a huge sum are just that, fantasies. There might be a little bit left, but it will be a mere drop in the bucket for you. This can't be! My parents, who had been counting on my grandparents' inheritance, were visibly shaken by our words, swaying on the spot as if they might faint. Yet, even in this situation, they seemed intent on relying on others. No choice then, we'll have to depend on Lisa. Having realized they can't get money from my grandparents, my parents decided to target Lisa. They probably think we raised her, so now she should take care of us. It's impressive how far they're willing to go, planning to leech off my sister, who has just started working. But even that avenue has already been closed off. Lisa has decided not to give you two any money. Why would you know something like that? Because Lisa sometimes visits here. What? Really? My parents, who thought they had destroyed the relationship between Lisa and me, were unaware that she had been visiting my grandparents' house. Knowing that none of my words were bluffs, my parents realized they couldn't rely on Lisa either. They seemed resigned. After moving in with my grandparents, I told Grandma everything about my past with my parents and Lisa. Grandma called Lisa and told her everything, clearing up any misunderstandings and making her aware of our parents' true nature. Lisa and I managed to repair our relationship. She had considered moving out when she learned the truth, but it's tough for a college student working part-time to live alone. Depending on our parents would just burden my grandparents more. So, Lisa endured living with them for a few years, and after graduating, she was more than happy to move out. Has Lisa contacted you since she moved out?
No, not at all. I've tried calling, but she never answers. I thought maybe she's just busy with her new job.
She always answers my calls. Looks like you've been completely cut off. My parents finally seemed to realize they were in a state of isolation. Thinking my life with a disability was too much trouble, they left me with my grandparents, and just as Grandma said, they ended up regretting it 5 years later. Please don't come to this house anymore. Grandma delivered the final blow, and my parents left without a word. Even after losing support from my grandparents, they continued to live beyond their means. I guess once you're used to a good environment, it's hard to go back. I feel the same way about the thought of returning to the apartment where I lived with my parents. After spending all their money, my parents didn't resort to debt but had to live a poor life. Eventually, they started living according to their income. But by the time they realized it, it was too late, and they had to move to a small, cheap apartment. If they had adjusted their lifestyle sooner, they might not have fallen into poverty. Moreover, if they hadn't left me with my grandparents or asked for extra money, maybe my grandparents or Lisa would have helped them. But it's too late for regrets or reflections now. What they're experiencing is the consequence of their actions. I continue to live with my grandparents. Lisa sometimes comes to visit. And we're as close as we used to be. I'm truly grateful to my grandparents for giving me a life without hardships and for restoring my relationship with Lisa. Soon, I'll graduate from college and start working, and I plan to repay my grandparents for all their kindness.